apart from spamming people, what are the biggest problems or issues that you see people making when they use chat?
I think probably trying to do too much is one thing. You don't need to go all in and start to build, those systems that we've spoke about at the start around send people around in circles, right? You can start to do a little bit at a time because people don't know that DM space is there if you don't tell them. Just by saying, well, the next campaign we do, we'll still probably build the landing page, but let's try the comment to message feature and see if that can get us some entries as well. The other is not collecting data and tracking that data in there as well. Like you can track whether people clicked on a link, what product they browsed recently, they abandoned a cart, did they, have they purchased a product? Being able to track those different things to then, when you are maybe getting to the point of sending a broadcast message, you can segment that a little bit better.
Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you're looking to get more sales, more customers, master your marketing, and ultimately take control of your retail or e-commerce business, then you're in the right place. I'm Selena Knight, a retail growth strategist and multi-award-winning store owner whose superpower is uncovering exactly what your business requires to move to the next level. I'll provide you with the strategies, the tools, and the insight you need to scale your store. All you need to do is take action. Ready to get started? Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Bringing Business to Retail podcast. As I sit down and record this intro, I have had it's like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I've had a back-to-back day of calls. Started at 7, went to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, and now I have finally sat down and realized that I need to record the intros for the podcast I recorded because I'm already struggling to remember what we talked about after talking about so much in one day. Now, the day started off with a podcast with the amazing Michelle Sherrier, and she has been on my show. I'm not sure if that episode has aired yet, but she is the host of the Retail Whore podcast. We have so much fun talking. When I sat down to talk to her for a pre-qualifier, which is where we sit down and just kind of go over whether someone's a good fit, and if they are, what we're going to talk about, our 15-minute call turned into about an hour. And then on the podcast, I think I again had to wrap it up at about an hour. And so I should have known better. But when I hopped onto her show today at an hour, I was supposed to be inside of our 5X call. So multiple times a week, we have strategy calls where our 5X retailers, that's the retail and e-commerce store owners inside of our 5X program, where they can meet with myself and my team and get help and advice to grow their businesses. Now, today was my turn to be on one of those calls. And as the clock ticked 9, I saw out of the corner of my eye that people were popping into the Zoom, and I wasn't there. And the conversation that I was with, the podcast, it was nowhere near being finished. It was not in a place where we could just wrap it up straight away. So I'm desperately trying to answer the questions, not very well, and type into the Facebook group that I was running late, and could Joed, our manager, jump in and at least start the conversation and let everybody know. Now, I think because my touch typing is not so great, it said something like, I'm running late. Joed, please start meeting. But I managed to wrap up that call in 10 minutes. And I'm also then messaging the host on Zoom saying, I really have to wrap this up because I was supposed to be in a call 5 minutes ago. And so she's trying to wrap up the conversation, but we weren't really in a spot where you could just say, okay, thanks. So 10 minutes late, I arrived into the 5X call. And you know what? It was a fabulous call. And thank you so much for being patient if you're on that call, because I know your time is valuable. But I have to say, it was such a rewarding call for me to be on, because inside of that call, one of our 5Xs, Dion, was telling me how she actually came into the program after purchasing my 9 Ways to Move Stock Masterclass. Now, in that masterclass, goes for about 30 minutes or so, and I talk about why you have old stock in the first place, the formula that I suggest that you use to work out how to get rid of it, when to get rid of it, and then we go through a whole bunch of strategies on how to move that stock. Spoiler alert, if you're listening, I have just recorded some bonus content for that program that will be going live very, very soon. So keep an eye on your inbox because I've added strategies number 10 and 11 and also some bonus content. So that's just a sidebar. Anyway, back to Dion. She was telling me how she came into the 5X program after purchasing the 9 Ways to Move stock and how she had so much success with it that she just wanted more. And she's like, I want to be the person on the testimonial page. And I said to her, so which of the strategies did you use? And she was talking through how she used one strategy and it worked ridiculously well. And I said to her, how well did it work? And she said, we made $5,000 that day. Oh my gosh. Do you not just want to be that person? I always love to hear this stuff. And you cannot understand how much joy this brings to hear somebody say that they took action. And that's the kind of life-changing result that she got for just a few hours of her time to watch the masterclass, to put it into action. I mean, these things aren't rocket science, guys, but if you do them, they can work. So I was so excited to hear about that. I was quizzing her on what she did and what she tried and how she decided to use that strategy. And all the time I was saying to her, you're going to be on the testimonial page. Like this is you're going to be one of those people on the page. Okay, let's just pull up here because this is the kind of day that I've had. I look up into the recording as we're doing this, the little Zoom thing that says this is recording. And it says recording paused. I'm like, whoa, hold up. I got to make sure this is recording. So I click the record button and a message pops up that says meeting is already being recorded. Now, what happened was because Joed had opened up the meeting for me, she had transferred the co-host status to myself, and then she left the conversation. I've just heard back from her to say, did I press the record button because the recording stopped at 10 minutes when I came in and she left? OMFG. Dion, if you're listening, you're probably asleep right now. We'll be reaching out. You and I are going to have a podcast because you will be on that testimonial page, I promise. And we will talk all about what you did, why it worked, and some of the things that you tried that didn't work, because that was what I was most fascinated about. So today I was hoping to bring you that podcast, or at least a big chunk of the conversation that we could repurpose into a podcast. But technology says otherwise. So I have a just as great episode with the amazing Dan Pinne. Now, Dan actually reached out to me to talk about chat, and I thought he was talking about ChatGPT, and I was super excited. I was like, oh yeah, you should see what I'm doing with ChatGPT. I want to see what you're doing with ChatGPT. He's like, no, chat, like Facebook Messenger chat or chat on your website. I was like, oh, is anyone still using that? And he said to me, of course they're still using it. Like, here are some of the results that we've seen. And I was intrigued because no one is talking about messenger chat. What does the messenger chat landscape look like right now? And of course, if people aren't really using it, then is that because it's no good? Or is it because it is a very underutilized sales mechanism that it had the rise, it had the fall, and now it's kind of rising back up again? And if your competitors aren't using this, is this something that you could use to get the edge on them? I'm guessing you kind of know the answer here, right? Otherwise, Dan wouldn't be on the podcast. But let's jump in to today's episode. Before we do, just a reminder, if you want to get the business-changing 9 ways to move old stock, well, actually, more than 9 ways now, masterclass, you can do so over at selenaknight.com/stock. Or if you're on Instagram, you can click the link in my bio. You can go through the training and hopefully you can implement it just like Dion did, and you can be on the testimonial page as well. Make sure to reach out and tell me. All right, let's see how you can use Messenger Chat in your business to increase your sales and not spam the bejesus out of your customers. All righty, let's get into today's episode with Dan Pinne. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Now, if you're anything like me, let's go back just pre-COVID and you would be laying in bed and all of a sudden your phone would go because your phone's on silent and you're just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then you pick it up and you realize some bastard is sending you a freaking messenger chat in the middle of the night because they have no idea what time zone you're on. And let's be honest, that's really crappy marketing. And all it does is turn you off as a customer. So I have to admit, I thought the whole using messaging chat had kind of died in the ass until Dan Pinne reached out to me and we started talking a really great conversation about how to use the chat options that are out there in a way that not only increases your sales, but doesn't piss your customers off. So welcome to the show, Dan Pinne.
Excellent. That's a great summary. Yeah. What do I do?
Too many times. Too many times.
It doesn't piss people off. That's definition of exactly what I do.
So before we even get started into the chat stuff, I have to ask you, how many times were you woken up in the middle of the night by the messenger thing buzzing because your phone is on silent?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's infuriating and fascinating how many bad chat experiences are out there. And we've all been burned by them, right? Like, whether it's on a live chat or on Messenger or Instagram or whatever, it's just something that you get into that going around in circles type thing. And it's like, it almost reminds you of I still have some of those phone conversations now where it's like you have to say what you want to. You've got to be like, what would you like to talk about? And you're like, I don't know. And then it's like, can you say that again? Can you say that again? And I
have a fun story there. So we have an American bank account and they've shipped out my new card, but they can't deal with the fact that I'm in Australia. So where they've shipped the card out, they haven't written the country on it. So funnily enough, it hasn't arrived.
Yeah.
I just literally 4 days in a row of, please say what you're trying to talk about. And unfortunately, it didn't recognize you didn't send my card to the right country.
Yeah, funnily enough. Yeah.
And then they go, debit card. It's like, right, to hear your transaction balance. No. It's so infuriating.
I love how businesses and companies are trying to adapt that AI into that AI space. And obviously it's a very hot topic at the moment. But, when you sort of open up that can of worms to get into it, you need to do it well. Because as soon as you open up that can of worms, it can go bad really quickly. Yeah. So it's quite technical to get into that space. And I know companies just want to dive there because they want to be cutting edge, but it almost is detriment to their business if they don't do it properly.
And even worse, the American ones can't understand an Australian accent.
Yeah, that's also very true.
So it's like, can you just give me a button? And then I just, help.
Help. Yeah.
All righty. How did you even get into this space? Because like I said in the beginning, I kind of thought that this space had really just it had the big rise. Everyone was using ManyChat. And I honestly thought it had just disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly came on and everyone was utilizing it. But as we tend to do as marketers, we often tend to ruin new tactics and things and tools that people are using. So it came in a rush. And then things sort of started to move, particularly from Meta and Facebook's perspective around policy changes and them, which I get why they did it. They didn't want it to turn into an email inbox. They didn't want to have people delivering messages at all hours of the evening. And they wanted to make sure that private space that people were utilizing more, as much as they were on the newsfeed, remained a private space, because those conversations with businesses are amongst conversations with friends, families, and everyone, right? Yeah. So they needed to respect that. So they kind of shut down the ability to continuously message people outside of a particular window, which was 24 hours at the time. And unless you had another reason, or, you could always use other channels to be able to communicate with them, email, SMS, number of different things. So I was certainly started to adopt it, early on, when everyone else was on that rise as well. And I was also actually integrating it with Facebook advertising at the time. That was my background. And started to build these chatbots, and using ManyChat sort of triggered something in me, which I really found fascinating when I was going about building the chatbots and creating conversations with people, and kind of building the messages that if they say this, they go there. And if they say that, they go there. And that kind of process I found not only really enjoyable, but then as the pandemic rolled around and I was spending a lot of time basically chatting with chatbots, was the only people I was talking to. I then, 2020 was a really interesting year for me. I actually got diagnosed at the time with adult ADD, which sort of made a lot of sense over the years, but it also made a lot of sense as to why I like chatbots, because chat is that space where people want that immediate gratification. They want that message.
The answer now.
Yeah, it's always on, and the chatbot's always trying to help. And, when I'm building it, I'm like, well, if they say this, they should go there. But what if they say that? Well, maybe we should have that option. So it matched a lot of almost my personality traits. Mm-hmm. And when I had that diagnosis and I started to realize that, that's when I was kind of like, all right, this is the space I'm going to play in, because we were still getting results, even with the policy restrictions around there, because, we were designing conversations in a way that were able to collect details to allow businesses to still follow up that conversation down the track as well. But then in the last 12 to 18 months, it's kind of been almost rolled back a little bit around the policy restrictions, and it opens up a whole huge raft of opportunities for businesses out there now.
All right. I want to talk to you about it, because it's kind of like the @everyone tag, which,
Yeah, infuriates me.
Really hurting.
Yep, it is. It is.
It's not getting used when you have something really important. It's just getting used like, hey, come and look at me again.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, you were just talking then about using chat in Facebook ads, and how you can build these conversations. And I used to have, when we had an agency, these absolutely fabulous clients. Like as people, they're the kind of people I would hang out with. We got along really well. We'd always have great conversations, but we were driving like leads to them, and they were in a bespoke area. So lots of things, tens of thousands of dollars quite often for the product. And we were driving, inquiries to them at like $2 a lead, which is ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
And someone would say, oh, hey, how much is that? And they would just write back and say, $12,000.
Yep.
I'd be like, every month it would be like, guys, the whole point of this is to drive conversation. Like, don't even tell them straight away, like build the conversation, and you can automate this process, just get the first few bits, just get the email address, like, hey, we do this custom work. Would you like to know more about it? Yeah, let me send you a PDF or a video.
Exactly.
Like it's not that hard, but as a customer, I'm just like, oh wow, this is personalized service, because that's what they do, right? Personalized custom products. Yeah. Why would you not have a personalized experience? And it used to infuriate me. I mean, we used to laugh about it, but it used to infuriate me. It's like, guys, it's another month, and you're still just answering the question with the amount. You need to get an email. You need to do something.
Yeah.
And so can we just take, say, that example? And what would you have done if you were that business? How would you have taken that process? Because this is what you've got experience in.
Yeah. I mean,
built it out.
It's interesting, like, where people kind of think that chat is going to get people from, that awareness level straight through to the final conversion point immediately with one message.
On a $25,000 product.
Yeah, exactly. But you kind of, what we do is we often replicate what people are already doing either on their website or their sales page or with the leads, and we'd replicate something in a chat format. So, if it is getting that download, rather than saying, when the Facebook ad would prompt people to say to download our XYZ PDF or to, get a free diagnosis or a free analysis, complete our quiz and get your immediate results, right? Quizzes are amazing in chat because it's immediate and it's such a natural behavior that people can tap answers and then they can get that diagnosis straight away. So it's opening up that conversation in a way that is delivering value immediately. And again, because when you're thinking about the customer journey, when you're thinking about two different things, thinking about the customer journey and the resources you've got to put into place, when you're doing let's say it's a lead magnet and there's a sales page, you've got to create obviously the PDF still, but you've got to write the sales page, you've got to put a form on there, then you've got to connect that to your email system, then you've got to set up the automated email to deliver the PDF in there, and then you've got to add them to the sequence from there. Well, with a chatbot, you can basically say, would you like to download this? Yes or no? Great. Can we have your email address? Amazing. Thanks so much. That goes over to your CRM. Here's a PDF. And within 30 seconds of them coming in and having that conversation, they've got the PDF in there. But then that opens up the window, because the difference between in the chat space to websites is once they've left your website, you can't really get them back to your website unless you send them an email, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with, and if you want to get more information from them and some more analysis from them, or in a chat space, as soon as you open up that conversation, then it opens up opportunities where you can go, what did you think of the PDF? Would you like to take our quiz or submit some more details so we can give you some more analysis or personalize your preferences and recommendations? Because we're all about personalizing our service. And so the more information you can give this, the more that we can tailor the information that we can send through to you as well. So starting that process by, getting them into that conversation, collecting their details. You still collect email. Email still plays a role. Like, these will never replace email, but people can easily submit their email in the chat conversation directly in Facebook and Instagram. And in Facebook, it actually brings their email from there. Yeah. So you just tap it. You don't need to type it out, right? And
do you know what I love about that? Guys, well, just to interrupt you, Dan, what I like about that is the email that people buy with is not always the email that people sign up to Facebook with. So if you can get the actual email that they use to log into Facebook and Instagram, then guess what? Your targeting for further ads is going to be a lot more targeted. You're going to hit the exact person, not potentially hit the person.
Yeah. So, and then, in the background, that email address goes over to your CRM, and you still go through the exact same process as if someone would have entered their details on a form on a landing page. But now you've got the chance to be able to expedite that process. So the idea that we sort of try to build with clients is that by the time they get to your website and they land there, they're a much more educated, trustworthy customer, because they've probably already given you their details. So you've built a little bit of trust there and a little bit of affinity that way. But you can educate them in different ways by saying, here's what we do and here's how we can help, but also learning more about that person. So then when you direct them to the website, you can personalize exactly where you send them and what offer is the best offer for them, or what product is the best product for them. So they know that by the time they get there, they're like, this is the right solution for me because I did that quiz back in the chatbot and it gave me that diagnosis. And I don't need to go back and ask questions, and it removes quite a few of the barriers. So it almost expedites that customer journey a fair bit. And that's what I love about, that conversation type behavior, is that, it can shorten the length of time that it takes people to convert, because, the amount of times they might have to hit your website and your sales pages and your landing pages and stuff like that, you're already giving that information in short little tidbits over the course of 1 to 2 minutes in a space that, is really quick, instant, and they trust, because behind all those conversations that they're having with your business is conversations with their friends and family. So it's that kind of, you're getting past that email inbox, which is saturated with a bunch of other competitors in there, And you're in a space that, when they open up their inbox and their DMs on Messenger or Instagram, they're not only answering messages from yourself, but they're answering messages to, the people that are closest to them as well.
Love it. So can you give us a great example of one of your retail or e-commerce clients of what that journey looks like and what the results were when they integrated chat into that sequence?
One of the really simple ways for e-commerce and retail businesses is to offer something, either a value, and sometimes that may be in the form of a discount. It could be a competition, a really aggressive type offer that is going to stand out, potentially on the newsfeed. That offer is one thing, but how you get them in to the chat space is another thing. And there are a lot of different ways that you can actually automate that conversation. So a campaign that we recently ran for a wine company, which was a competition, but they were giving away a decent prize. There was some advertising. So the Facebook ads and the Instagram ads, when people clicked on them, instead of going over to the website, they would go directly to the DMs to start a conversation, and it would be with the ability to capture their details. But also they could post organically across their Instagram newsfeed, their reels. They could do Instagram lives and on Facebook and stuff like that. And they could prompt people to leave comments on those posts. So they could tell them to say, comment wine, comment whatever you would like on that post. And, you think of those competitions we always see on Instagram, when, people are like, tag two friends in the comments and then follow us and follow that account. And like a little bit of me dies every time that I see that they're not getting any details from that. So
and they just make it too hard. Like, more than one step, people are going to be like, whatevs. And are you really going to get the best bang for your buck and even the best followers? Because all you're going to get is the people, like the diehard people who actually won't pay for anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they're not willing to, if they're not willing to give you more details other than tagging a couple of friends in the comments, are they the right customer for you? So in their post, they didn't use exact language like that, but it was like, you can can tag your friends in the comments, tell them it's here, you can get bonus entries that way. And what that would do is that would trigger a DM that would go bang straight in their inbox. And it'd be, hey, thanks for your comment. Or if they click from the ad, thanks for your interest in entering the competition. We just need to collect some details. Now, first of all, we grab their email address. And like we said before, that's easily populated from Facebook and Instagram. And then we ask for one other thing, which is been introduced in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. It's cross Messenger, and it's just rolling out on Instagram in beta access now, where they can sign up to what we call a subscription list. Meta call it recurring notifications, which isn't as sexy. So we call it subscription list or DM list. And effectively what that is people sign up to be able to be sent messages outside of that initial 24-hour window. Theoretically, you could send people a message pretty much once a day. Every 24 hours, you could follow up with them. But we know that's going
only
to
if you don't want them as customers.
Exactly. Yeah. So please don't do that. But that is the feature that is now available. So they sign up once for that. They click a button, and that triggers something in Meta's back end to say this person has agreed and has given permission to be able to sign up and receive those messages. And then once they've completed that process, then we can either send them an offer then and there, or we could get them to take some of the other offers that we have. We had like a personality type quiz, what your wine says about you, and some other fun things that we drove people through to, because each of those different data points builds that data profile of that customer. So then once they'd entered down the track and they may not have purchased then and there, but then comes a competition winner announcement. And everyone that has signed up and subscribed to that subscriber list and entered that promo, we can send a broadcast message to them all. The broadcast message, there are some stipulations around you need to have, you can basically use text and a quick button. So it's kind of like the equivalent of an email subject line. It's pretty much exactly the same thing. You need to basically say, here's a message. If you want to find more, tap the button below. Then you can send them links, images, buttons, the rest, right? But it's pretty restricted. So you've got to be pretty smart with that. So, for the competition, naturally we've just drawn the winner of our prize. Did you win? Click below to find out. Right.
So we just stop just here and let's just do a quick recap of where we're at.
Yeah.
So customer sees, person who doesn't know you sees ad.
Yep.
I click on the button to learn. We haven't done the competition yet. We've just done an offer at this point.
Yeah, an offer or we did a competition, but it could be, let's say if it was an offer it could be a discount code, for instance.
So we're going click, get a discount code, click here, opens up the chat.
Yep.
Chat's going to say, hey, person's name, because the chat bubble knows that.
Correct.
So, hey, Sal, saw that you were looking for our discount code.
Yep.
Just got a question first. Grab your details first? So, basically, we want your email before you get it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So we've done that. And all this is automated. Let's just make this really, really clear.
Yeah.
The person enters their email address, and then we populate the discount code.
Yep.
You're going to pull that from your CRM or your Shopify or whatever. You're going to populate that, and you're going to use a discount code that's going to be able to track that this was from this offer. Let's just put that in there as a sidebar.
And in fact, you can, for Shopify customers out there, you can actually draw a unique discount code directly from Shopify, and you can track those purchases in there. So it actually allocates back to your chatbot and gives you a nice dollar value as to how much you've earned, which is always handy.
Some ROI.
Yes.
And so then we're going to try and engage them in some way, shape or form. Maybe that is like a product guide or, like you said, a quiz, just something for people to go, oh, I want to get to know this brand a little bit more.
Yep.
Do that engagement. Then in your case, you had a competition. So then they're going to enter the competition, a few more interactions to try and boost the engagement in that competition. And now we're at the point where we've sent this very short, brief broadcast, which is to get engagement, because you're like, we've announced the winner. Was it you? Click here. So, we're getting that interaction, which is what this whole purpose is about. They're going to click the button. I'm assuming they'll go off to your Facebook post or website or wherever to find out if it was them. Right.
Yep.
Are we all caught up?
Yeah, we are. One thing in that data capture process, in that conversation, whether it be early on or throughout that process of getting more details, getting that subscription list opt-in. So you still need to, get their permission to be able to do this. This isn't like you start a conversation and you can automatically start spamming them. No, it's very much a permission-based.
So putting that all the way back at the beginning when we ask for email, and then we ask for the ability to contact them in the future on DMs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we send that broadcast, yes, and they go, did I win? Let's find out. You can reply with a message to say, click here to go and find out. Here's our winners. But then you can also go, hey, sorry, you were unlucky this time. But as a consolation prize, here's another discount code that is just exclusively for you for entering the competition or for downloading that offer. And because you're one of our exclusive subscribers, you've got 48 hours to be able to spend.
I was going to say, I would put a time frame on this, like 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
We are so marketers.
So it's a nice, exactly. It's a nice juicy offer that is going to get people over the line. The ROI from that competition, all up from ads and, cost of goods for the prizes and time and everything like that, was about 3.4 based on the sales that they actually made. And the interesting part was that broadcast message, that went out to all the lucky losers, the runners up, that was what made the majority of the sales from there.
Because you haven't actively sold in that lead up. But what you're saying is that by the time you've engaged somebody and then you put an offer in front, there is that kind of disappointment. Like, maybe I actually still want something from this company. I got a code, I'll go and use it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Segment that even further around, like, send this offer to the people that in that quiz previously indicated that they're a big fan of white wine. Send this offer to the people that are interested in red wine. You can segment that and personalize that even further to be making sure that you're putting the right offers in front of people on a regular basis.
Which is going to increase your ROI.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be honest. This sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah. But when you're actually thinking about, if you were to do the same setup from whether it be a competition campaign basis, and often like when people are like, oh, we need to build out we need to build this on the website and stuff. And I go, all right, well, you need a form on the website you need to be able to deliver that code. So you've got to write the email that then delivers the code to people then and there. You've got to set up the landing page and the copy, etc. for that. You've got to make sure that the ad is clicking over there and that you're tracking clicks from, all of your advertising over there. And if you're not using this option in your organic posts, you've got to do the, on Instagram, go to the link in our bio, which no one ever goes to your profile and clicks that. Commenting and engaging is still such a natural behavior for people out there. So, and when it comes to writing the copy and writing the bits and pieces around, can we get your email? Can you sign up to our list? The way I phrase copy, or the way I talk about how to write copy for chat marketing is, imagine that you're kind of sending text to your bestie. So, rather than, you wouldn't send, your BFF long, big, formal chunks of text, right? It's kind of short, sharp, uses emojis, it's fun. Obviously, it's got to fit your brand, but that matches the behavior of that environment that you're in. So you can have a bit of fun with it. You write that copy, remembering that once it's done, it's going to be there for you to be able to replicate and use whenever you would like. I think the time and the ROI capability, because not only with that campaign, but with a lot of other e-commerce campaigns, and we've ran a campaign before that was just a simple discount offer.
Mm-hmm.
We did the exact same offer, the exact same messaging. We did one across website, landing page, sign up form, etc. That formula. We did the exact same thing across driving people to Messenger and Instagram to claim the exact same code. The ad said the same thing. The creative was exactly the same. Now, there were more people that actually went through to the website and filled out that form, so you get more volume. But what we found is that when we would follow up with those people and we would deliver those offers to people in the chatbot space, is that they were 66% more likely to actually convert. So they're a more educated, trusted client by the time they get through to your website. And what was really interesting is that they actually had a higher value compared to the other people that filled out the form on there, which was gold. That was like a really unexpected benefit. Like, they spent 2 to 3 times more because they kind of knew what they had to purchase by the time they got there.
So that's why it's so important to be tracking, because everybody focuses on, cost per acquisition, and I just want to get more people for less. But actually, no, you don't. You want the best return on investment. And sometimes that means paying more to get better customers.
Yeah. It was a real eye opener for us to be able to see the exact same offer, the exact same messaging, everything. When you look at the advertising campaign results and you're looking at purely at the lead number there and comparing both of those, you're going, well, the landing page performed better. But then when you actually go back and look at the results from both of them, you're like, actually it's and
which one stuck around the longest as well? That's important.
Because now that you've got that subscription opt-in as well, obviously you can deliver that immediate offer, but then now that's almost like a mini email list, right?
Yeah.
That those messages that, again, you need to be, please don't message people once a day. But use it sparingly when you've got something really important to say. But with those messages, they get opened about 85 to 95% of the time, because, between now and when we hopped on this, people, ignore email inboxes, but if something pops up in their message inbox, they're still reading those messages. And because the offers that we send people are personalized and customized, they often click through between 45 and 50% of the time as well. That's the baseline that we're seeing across all broadcast messages at the moment, because we know a fair bit about those customers to be able to not just blast an offer to everyone and spray and pray, but we know exactly what to send to someone at the right time.
Yeah, and it also means you can target those higher priced items. If you know that they're spending more money, then you target offers for those higher priced items because they're more likely to spend the money. So it means that to me, it just seems obvious. It's like segmenting your email list. The offer you send to, the customer royalty who spend the most amount of money shouldn't be about stuff that's on sale. Like they're not buying stuff that all you're doing is clogging up their inbox. And you could even if you took this conversation and you reversed it and said, okay, the landing page got us more subscribers and they spent more, but we definitely still made money on the chat, but they liked sale products. You just change the offer and you're like, okay, so the discounty type people came from Messenger, so we'll use that. Or the high value people came from Messenger. So it's just adjusting your offer to the channel, which is what you would do in any other platform.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a different way to doing. Again, I'm just basically replicating what people are already doing. But it's just in a different system that we're finding is performing a lot better than a lot of other channels out there. And I mean, I sort of fell into this space again, going like back into the Facebook ads space because Facebook ads were struggling. Like everyone was going through that privacy period where there were a lot of restrictions on Facebook ads and performance was dropping. So that's why I kind of was like, oh, maybe I'll try these chatbot things and I'll see how they perform with Facebook ad campaigns and I'll connect them in there. And then, it just sort of, it kept on going from there. So it's just another platform that, once you've got people signed up, particularly to that subscription list, that is now kind of the feather in the cap of Meta's, messaging system to be like, you can get people to opt in. They're still pretty protective over it. Like you still, you can't just go and import a subscription list and then start blasting them, right? They need to say, yes, you can actually message me. And that little permission is not a small thing for people to be like, yeah, you can message me, every 24 hours. And if they're giving permission to do that, then it kind of indicates that they're fairly interested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
In your business as well.
So what are the biggest, apart from spamming people, what are the biggest problems or issues that you see people making when they use chat?
I think probably trying to do too much is one thing. Going back to your point around, it seems like a lot of work. You don't need to go all in and start to build, those systems that we've spoke about at the start send people around in circles, right? You can start to do a little bit at a time because people don't know that DM space is there if you don't tell them. Just by saying, well, the next campaign we do, we'll still probably build the landing page, but let's try the comment to message feature and see if that can get us some entries as well and can collect that. So just by starting with that low-hanging fruit is probably one of the biggest things because they see the shiny lights and they go down a rabbit hole and they try to do so much. Just do a little chunk at a time and you will build a really, amazing ecosystem, but don't try to do too much. So that's probably one thing, one of the main things. The other is not collecting data and tracking that data in there as well. Because when you build these systems, you can track everything. Like you can track whether people clicked on a link, what they answered to that question that you asked, what they browsed what product they browsed recently, they abandoned a cart, did they, have they purchased a product? Being able to track those different things to then when you are, maybe getting to the point of sending a broadcast message, you can segment that a little bit better in there as well. And they're very much focused on getting the messages in front of people. But if you don't know how that's performing, it's hard to be able to then continue to do that down the track if you're not sure if it's actually working or not. So, yeah.
You just mentioned abandoned cart. And I think this is one of the underutilized areas in all areas of marketing in retail and e-commerce. Do you find it an effective use of sending the message that you would do on SMS or email, which is like, hey, so that you were looking at this product, were you, whatever your abandoned cart thing is, do you need some more help? Do you just, hey, did you forget? Do you find that that's a really effective use?
It's an incredibly effective use because when we structure those messages, we structure them in a way that opens up that conversation again. And sometimes it can just be, can we help with anything to complete your purchase? And they may type back something and you don't necessarily need to have any automation AI connected to that, but that's a great opportunity for, the business owner or the social media manager to jump in and manually potentially reply to those barriers. So just simply asking that question. And if you think about the environment in email and in SMS, it's not natural for people to reply to those messages, even if you do ask in there to be like, can we help with anything? And you're like, yeah, you could, but I'm probably not going to write an email back to you.
Yeah, I'll just go and buy the thing or I won't.
Yeah. Whereas Facebook and Instagram, I may type something back quickly and say, yeah, I was checking up, you didn't have the size, or, I was looking at that, but I wasn't sure if it was the right so-and-so for this. And that doesn't need to, like I said, doesn't need to be connected to any automation. It can just, by simply opening up that conversation, you're giving the opportunity to remove those barriers to people. So the abandoned cart message works really well, but it actually works really well, not always from a sales perspective. It actually works well to generate responses from people. And keep in mind that all of these messages that people are sending through to you are little pieces of anecdotal evidence that you can use in future marketing as well. If they're asking questions about that, and you're noticing that there's a lot of people asking questions about, a certain feature of a product, well, that's probably either a piece of content or something you can include in your FAQs on the product itself. So it's feeding your overall knowledge of your business because you are getting direct feedback from customers in there as well. Yeah.
I love it. All righty. Yeah. I feel like that is the perfect place to wrap this conversation up. Otherwise, I'll just go down another chat rabbit hole.
There's a lot of rabbit holes that we can go down.
There is. And I just if you are watching the video, I'd just like to point out that clearly I got the memo because my shirt matches your backdrop.
It does, yes. Can't scan your shirt, though. But if people do want to scan that, they can. You can jump in.
Won't get you very far.
No.
All right. I think that this is a kind of thing that people might undertake themselves, but maybe want to know a little bit, because we can only cover so much on the podcast. They might want to know a little bit more information. I understand you have very graciously put together some info for our listeners. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Yeah,
definitely. So to get started, there are a number of different ways that you can go down. I've set up a resources page at chatresponse.com.au/retail. And I'll put on there a few different things, obviously a little bit of a recap, some information on where to get started. The system that we use is called ManyChat. So you need a third-party system to be able to plug in to give you the features to be able to do that. I have no affiliation directly with ManyChat, but that's the system that we use. And I've got an extended 30-day trial if you want to give this a bit of a whirl and you've got enough time to actually jump in there and see how it goes as well. So I'll stick that code in there. And then if you want to skip a few steps to sort of install and get started, we have a bunch of different templates that solve a number of different business things that you want to do to be able to install. And so you can actually install that directly to your ManyChat account, edit all the information, and it kind of skips a few steps rather than starting from scratch. So it's quite handy.
It's very generous. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So we're going to put that in the show notes, but if you're listening and you're not going to write that down, chatresponse.com.au/retail. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for reinvigorating my intentions of looking into chat, because we, again, like everybody else, kind of stopped using it. But I can see now that we've had this conversation that it's definitely an avenue that we should probably look at down the, as soon as we have, you got to have the time, right? Don't just go, I listen to a podcast, and you got to put this into your marketing strategy, put the time aside, look at how it works. But Dan has quite generously offered some great cheat sheets, shortcuts to get this up and running and test it out in your business. So thanks, Dan.
Yeah, pleasure. Absolutely. Get out there and have some more conversations. Conversations help people convert. So jump in there and have more conversations with your customers. I think you'll be incredibly surprised by the results.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Lita.
So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at Daniel and I, and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently, or gave you some inspiration, or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.